From the Philippines and to the rest of the world, welcome to Get Started's Crunch Time. Welcome to Get Started's Crunch Time, and I am your host, Josh, and I'll be joined today with a very special guest for our pilot episode. And I'm so honored to be working with her again, as I've previously worked with her in our previous industry. But without further ado, I'd like to welcome our guest for today, Marian Punzal. Hi, Marian.
Hi, Josh. Nice to be here, and thanks for guesting me for your pilot episode.
Well, thank you so much for accepting the invite. I know how busy you are, and despite of that, you were able to fit in our episode today in your schedule. The audience right now may be wondering, what does it take to become a freelancer and what are the perks? And those are the things that we will discuss later on. We'll actually cover that in our conversation. And maybe what I wanted to know, Marian, maybe on, let's say, on a nutshell, what do you usually do as a freelancer?
Though my expertise is really into recruitment, because that's my background for the last 13 years, I'd say that some of the experiences that I have is not really focused on recruitment. I've done a lot of writing, lead generation, online research for clients, basically a lot of ad hoc tasks for them. And it's something that I have learned through freelancing and something that I really enjoyed. I did not know that I would enjoy this kind of task outside of recruitment. So pretty much, even if my task is really about 60 to 70% recruitment, I'm still doing a lot of ad hoc tasks.
That sounds really interesting. And how long have you been doing this full time?
For full time, I've been in freelancing for a couple of years, but in totality, I have been in freelancing for the last 5 years. For the first 3 years, I was pretty much doing it as a side hustle because I still have a full-time corporate work. And I have been doing this every evening, like about 2 to 3 hours every night.
Well, that's really interesting because a lot of our audience may be wondering, like, is it good for me? Will it actually work for me being someone working in the corporate world or in the traditional employment where they go to the office? So doing it for the past 5 years, 3 years, doing it as a side hustle, looks like you're really enjoying it. But prior to doing, let's say, the freelancing, what were your experiences before?
I've been in recruitment since 2007. I've worked in some of the BPO industries in Cebu, which I've worked with Josh for one of the BPO industries. And I've been into volume recruitment, technical recruitment, and other corporate and support executive recruitment. So it's basically a full cycle recruitment experience that I have until I was able to manage a team of recruiters for the last 5 years of my corporate work. So after which, I actually decided that I like to try freelancing. So I really do not intend to do freelancing full-time that time, but I tried it like about 2 to 3 hours a day until I enjoyed it that much. And I was actually waiting for an opportunity to fully transition to freelancing, which I did a couple of years ago.
That's very interesting because coming from, let's say, the corporate world, maybe there is a question for our audience on how hard was the transition? Do I need to prepare myself? Do I need to go through several trainings to be able to do freelancing work? And at the end of this, episode, we will have a golden nugget. So stay tuned for that. For the last 5 minutes of this episode today, we will learn from Marian on how do we get started through a quick 5-minute golden nugget. So Marian, maybe the question is, did you have a lot of preparation for yourself, maybe trainings to be equipped with skills to do freelancing?
To be honest, I really did not undergo trainings in freelancing, especially with learning the skills. It was more of like a self-taught training for me. I utilized like online research, YouTube tutorials, pretty much just exploring and navigating some tools and softwares for me to use. So it's pretty much something that I learned on my own. I think during that time as well, 5 years ago, I was not really that informed on if there are some trainings out there that offers this kind of upskill. So it's more of like a natural way of just learning it myself. And I did not regret any of those. It was actually helpful for me because I was able to learn a lot of things in freelancing. And that's also the reason why I really wanted to shift fully to freelancing, because it actually opens a lot of avenue of learning, and you could actually meet a lot of clients. You could actually handle a lot of projects, and with handling projects and different clients, you would be able to gain more knowledge about your work and basically increase your knowledge and skills.
In other words, just have to take the experience to learn from it. Is there a particular platform that maybe the audience right now who are very interested in doing their freelancing can jump into and start their career?
Yeah, there are a lot of platforms that we could actually utilize if you want to look for online jobs. But for me personally, I got my first job with onlinejobs.ph 5 years ago. It was a great platform for me to get some clients. I was able to get 2 clients from there. And also I've had a lot of successful clients as well with Upwork.
Upwork and onlinejobs.ph. I guess for the audience, they can try searching, and there's a lot more as you mentioned. So just search it online. And when you started with just taking the experience as you went on your job search. If that's the case, what would be the best way to actually equip, let's say, are there requirements for certain tools? Is there a PC requirement? Do I need to invest so much on my gadgets to get started?
Yeah, the first thing is a really good internet connection. I'm not sure if that would be possible here in the Philippines, but at least get a really good connection from
that's a bit challenging for us right now.
Right. Yeah, and aside from that, in terms of, you really have to invest in terms of your machine. You have to really have a good laptop or desktop. I'm not really that technically inclined with the specs, but I would suggest like at least i5 processor, 8 gig RAM. And of course, there are a lot of brands out there, but there are some clients who really require certain minimum requirements of the specs. And that's what I've noticed, like the i5 processor and 8 gig RAM. Some would actually just do with 4 gig RAM depending on the work. But yeah, I think you just have to invest on that, because this would basically be your tool to produce the task that is needed by the client.
So pretty much you just have to check the requirements, and it would be very clearly specified when you go to those platforms. And with the trainings, is there a specific website they can find very valuable training materials from?
Well, it actually depends, but I trust some YouTube tutorials. There are a lot of good tutorials out there depending on what kind of tools you would want to learn, to navigate, or some of the skills that you would want to learn. Like there are some basic, let's say, graphic designing or basic things on how to start with let's say Adobe Premiere or something like that, or maybe just some tips that you could find in YouTube, or maybe just search online. I did not have any formal training to start with in freelancing. But yeah, just learning on your own.
So the key thing here is to start doing it. So in let's say in your experience doing it for the past 5 years, there may be a turning point which made you decide that I would probably be doing this full time. So giving up your corporate career. If you can share to us, to the audience as well, what was that turning point where you made that decision to completely do it full time?
The difference between working in a corporate setting and freelancing is stability. So that is the reason why I really, why it was difficult for me to transition fully to freelancing, because we're actually used to the month per month paycheck that we receive. For freelancing, we cannot guarantee that we would be able to have that client long term. There are times that we are just hired for a project based. There are times that the client would just tell us that they don't need our service anymore, or something like that. So there are a lot of challenges in terms of that area. So the turning point that I have way back a couple of years ago is an offer for a full-time stable job, and that actually pushed me to transition fully. So um, I was actually offered a full-time job with Upwork as part of their talent services team, and they offered the stability that I was actually looking for. So that was the reason why I actually say that, yeah, I was actually looking for this kind of opportunity before, and it actually came, and that's the reason why I grabbed and I fully transitioned to freelancing.
That's really good to know, and good for you that you were able to find your what you were looking for. And I guess for our audience as well, maybe the question is talking about, let's say, the financial aspect of it, being, let's say, able to earn more, because definitely that's the goal, and at the same time having, let's say, control of your time. My question, if I were to start, how much would I be earning? Would I have, let's say, unlimited opportunity to earn doing freelancing?
Just to go back to my experience 5 years ago, I actually started with $2 per hour, which is really low if you talk about freelancing. So
$2 is around 100 pesos.
100, yeah. Which is actually higher if you would be working as a full-time employee, though in some of the companies. But that's actually really low compared to like the offer nowadays. I think most are really starting out like $3.50 to $6. But before, I was okay with $2. And the reason behind that, I was actually hired as an e-commerce, it's an Amazon seller support. And I don't really have any experiences about it. As in, I have zero experience about being a seller support. It's more of like a virtual assistant task. And the client was actually kind enough to train me about the task. And the client shared a lot of videos on how to navigate the Amazon website. And I learned from there. So it was actually okay because I did not have an experience. $2 was actually okay for a part-time job every night. And yeah, so I think that would be my tip to those who are starting or wants to transition to freelancing. There would be times that you would not be able to get your desired rate. Let's say your desired rate would be at $6 to $8, but there would be times that because the market right now is really saturated for those who really wants to go to freelancing, so it's okay to start low, and it's okay to start low while learning something new. So that's something that I think that's one of the takeaways that I would want to give to the aspiring freelancers now. So I've also noticed that there are a lot, as a recruiter, I actually see a lot of profiles who really has a bit high rate, but clients are actually looking for the lowest rate. So if you really want to land in a job really fast compared to your competitors, just start low and prove yourself. Then you could just move up in terms of having a better rate in the coming projects.
All right. So the key thing is to equip yourself with the skill, and it's okay to start low based on Marian's experience. I guess maybe for some, they would also be asking, what would be the benefits? Are there benefits doing, let's say, doing freelancing? Do these platforms such as Upwork provide the same benefits that I get, let's say, doing, let's say, my regular corporate work? Or would I have to make a lot of adjustment, especially with, let's say, the government benefits such as SSS, 𝗥𝗲𝗍, or PhilHealth? What would be those things that they need to adjust and prepare for before they transition into doing freelancing?
For some of the clients, or I think most of the clients, they are just into your fixed hourly rate, and they do not really care that much on our Philippine mandatory benefits. So most of the freelancers are actually doing voluntary contributions for SSS, 𝗥𝗲𝗍, and PhilHealth, which you could actually do on your own. There are some clients though that I've met that they actually would give 13th month pay, but not all. Because it's only here in the Philippines that we have the 13th month pay. But usually if they are used to having some Filipino freelancers, they usually have they usually would give the 13th month pay, but really don't expect that with the clients. All you can expect is your hourly rate that will be given to you based on your agreed rate. So the rest of the benefits, I'm not sure if the clients would be giving that. It would be nice if the client would give that, but I would suggest not to expect that at all.
All right. So we'll just hope that the first, let's say, the first client that they will land on would have a previous experience and would provide those 13th month pay, perhaps. But definitely, there's that adjustment that they have to, or that expectation that it may not be the same set of benefits as with a traditional company. So that's really good. And thank you for sharing that, because a lot of our audience may be wondering, is it the best time? Is now the best time to switch from my traditional company to doing freelancing, or let's say my traditional corporate employment to doing freelancing, especially with the pandemic? What would be your tips for those who are currently thinking about it, especially with our situation?
I'd say that you have to check the job posting for freelancing for remote work. Check if there is something that is for you. Apply for those jobs and see if that would benefit you compared to where you are right now. It might not be fit for all, but freelancing is also very rewarding because you would be able to work directly with the client. And if ever you would be working directly with the client, then the pay would go directly to you, pretty much. So in terms of the rates, it's actually rewarding, because usually the rates that we have here in the Philippines would run about, say, $5 to $10, depending on your skills. For full-time, $5 per hour would roughly be around 40,000 pesos. And for some companies, that can already be a managerial position. And for $5 per hour, that can be more of like an individual contributor, like a virtual assistant, or maybe some recruiters, or maybe some basic admin work. So if you would have to compare the rates in terms of that aspect, it can be rewarding. Stability-wise, I still cannot say that it might be stable all the way, but hopefully aspiring freelancers out there could land in their perfect client soon.
All right. Well, definitely. And for those who are very interested to start freelancing, start with learning a skill. As what Marian shared earlier, you have to have a skill in order for you to start getting clients. And when you land the right, when you land on the right job and the right client, it would be very rewarding if you are able to really prove yourself. And thanks for sharing that, Marian. And I'm very excited for our audience to get started after this episode, from the tips that you've given, and what more with the next 5 minutes, as you will be sharing in the next 5 minutes some golden nuggets to the audience.
For my golden nugget, I will just be telling you about what recruiters are looking for and how to prepare for your interview. This is pretty much just some tips. I have prepared here 5 tips for you if you are planning to apply on your first job. All right. So the first one is know the company and understand what it does. This is something that I've noticed to some of the freelancers that I have interviewed. They do not have any details about the company. So it is very important to do our own research. We could actually Google their company website or check their LinkedIn page to see what they do and what their culture are, how fit we are with the culture that the company has. And we also need to know what products and services they are offering. Second is reading through the job description thoroughly. So it is very important that if you are applying for the job, make sure that you read all the responsibilities and the qualifications that is written in the job description. Now, once you have understood that, you have to match that to your skills. So you have to ask yourself, is this something that I can do? Is this something that I already have, or something that I already know? Because what we would want is how you could bring value to the company and not how the company could give back to you. So your mindset as an applicant soon would be to answer the question, and how can I bring value to the company that I am applying for, right? So you have to make sure that you would also be confident that you could deliver the task, but not overly confident that you would be arrogant. So there is a thin line between confidence and arrogance. Just make sure that you could just showcase your skills, but at the same time, just make sure that you don't overstep or you don't brag too much about yourself. The third one would be being on time and set the proper interview environment. So being on time, because right now, especially in the freelancing world, all our interviews are through Zoom or Skype or any video call tools. So you have to make sure to avoid some technical glitch. You have to check your microphone, your video, your environment, and make sure that everything is okay and everything is neat. You also have to inform, especially if you're at home, you have to inform your family that you will be having an interview or you'll be talking to a client, so that there would be the unnecessary noises would be avoided. That's also what I've noticed, that there are some interviews that I was able to conduct that the applicant was really bothered because there were some noise and the environment was not set properly. So you have to make sure that everything is prepared. And the fourth one would be having a conversation with the recruiter. So instead of just recruiters asking you questions, recruiters would actually appreciate if you would be asking questions about the job or asking questions about the company or how you would fit in the company. So it is very important that it would be a dialogue between you and the recruiters, and not just the recruiters asking you too much questions. Right. And if you would be asking questions, the recruiter would also have an impression that you are really interested with the work and you're interested to be part of their team. And the last but not the least is being okay to follow up. So I've noticed that most of the candidates really doesn't do follow-ups. If they do not hear from recruiters, they would already assume that they did not pass the assessment or the interview. But there would really be times that recruiters would actually receive a volume of applications, and who knows that maybe just one follow-up from you would actually stand out and the recruiters will be picking you. So with a follow-up, I would suggest not to call, but maybe just a simple email. You thank the recruiter for the time spent during the interview, and that you enjoyed the conversation, and you look forward to some feedback from the recruiters. And I think I actually had an experience that among 10 of the top candidates that I was able to hire to actually follow up because I see that there is an interest and passion to work for that job. So I guess that would be all the tips that I have for you.
Well, that was really golden. Thank you so much, Marian, for that amazing golden nugget. And I'm pretty sure our audience learned a lot. And that was a quick first episode. And there's a lot more in store for a lot of those who are very interested to start their freelancing career. So here at Get Started, we will be having more episodes for you. So Marian, thank you so much for joining us today.
It's my pleasure, Josh, and I really enjoyed this first episode, and I hope that I could join you in the succeeding episodes or in any way that we will have any activities for Get Started TV.
We will look forward to that, and until our next episode, there would be a subscribe button right below. Just click that to get updates on our latest videos, and watch out for the next episode here at Get Started TV's Crunch Time. This has been Josh, your host. See you soon.